You remember a week ago when I might have, I don't know, at least in some people's estimations, freaked out a little bit, ranted on the Cowboys, told you everything that's wrong with them, called for the coaches firing? Remember when I did all that? I was still right. 27-20 over the Eagles, but I was still right. And you should take all that analysis, all that angst, all that ranting, you should bottle it up, and you should sell it to Philadelphia. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. And it's time for Straight Talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. I'm telling you, if you took all that anger, but not just the emotion, if you took the analysis that I had for the Cowboys a week ago and you gift wrapped it, put a nice little green ribbon on it, beautiful Christmas time bow, and sold it in Philadelphia, it'd fly like hotcakes. Because the way I felt about the Dallas Cowboys a week ago, and trust me, I still feel the same way today. 1 W in the short term, 1 27-20 win over the Philadelphia Eagles, 1 big night by Zeke does not wash away 9 years of ineptitude, 9 years of mediocrity, 9 years of a failed experiment. No. One night doesn't change everything for me. And it should be eye-opening for Eagles fans. I'm telling you, take it. Unwrap your gift box. See what you got. Because what you have, Philadelphia Eagles fans, is you have the potential to become only the 4th Super Bowl winning team since 2000 to fall short of a winning record. Only the 4th. You'd be the 8th to miss the playoffs over that same time frame, and you would join the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went 7-9 after winning the Super Bowl. You joined the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 2012 Baltimore Ravens as teams going 8-8 after winning the Super Bowl. Those are the only 3 to come back a year later and fall something short of a winning record. Here today, the Philadelphia Eagles sit at 4-5 and a serious, deep, long look in the mirror. What's wrong with the Eagles? Because that game last night, that 27-20 win by the Dallas Cowboys, I tell you this in objectivity. I tell you this not to be mean. I'm not here to gloat. I'm not here to think the season's turned around and I'm full of optimism and yay Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? No. I'm here to tell you that game said more about the Eagles than it did the Cowboys. Who did it say something specifically about? Here is Doug Peterson, Eagles head coach, after the game.
Starting with myself, all of us, we just look at ourselves in the mirror. And are we doing enough? Are we giving enough? Each week it's a strain. I mean, you have to strain yourself to make plays. I mean, that's just the way this game is. And we didn't do enough of that today. And that's the disappointing thing.
When I tell you to take it all, package it up, all my Cowboys angst, and sell it to the Eagles, this is what I mean. What did I say? Let me get this straight. Coming off of a bye, with a home game, and an opponent with a sub-500 record, all those things applied to the Dallas Cowboys last week, and taking on the Tennessee Titans at home. Home game, off a bye week, sub-500 opponent, you show up like that. That exact same scenario applies to the Philadelphia Eagles. They were playing at home, coming off a bye week, and facing a sub-500 team in the Dallas Cowboys. But not just that. They weren't just facing a sub-500 team. They were facing a team on the verge of total and utter dysfunction, of firing their coach. They were facing a team, the Dallas Cowboys, in total disarray. They were facing a team whose fan base was going out there ranting on social media and First Take and the Will Cain Show about firing Jason Garrett for the umpteenth time. That's the team that you couldn't score more than 20 points against, Philadelphia Eagles. That's the team that you failed to get a win against, failed to take control of a division, failed to be in the thick of the playoff hunt with those situations. And by the way, if you didn't like those 3, let me just add 2 more for you. How about this? You played a game at home off a bye week against a team with a sub-500 record in a game where you had 0 penalties called against you. 0. and still failed to get the win. Do you know how many times that's happened, by the way? Since the year 2000, there have been 30 games. 30 games. That's less than 2 a year. 30 games in 18 years where a team goes without a single penalty called against them. I don't know how that happens, by the way. I mean, I don't understand. I guess the Eagles just play good, clean football up there. No harm, no foul, no holding, no nothing. No illegal offensive lineman downfield. No hold on the amazing Carson Wentz wristband shirk. No pass interference. No nothing. Just good, clean living in Philadelphia. But still, with all that, no win. You have a team, you have a game where you have failed to score more than 24 points, but for once this season. But for once. Coach Peterson, you got to have more than what you told us about why this is the case in Philly. Cut two, Bubba.
We did take a step back tonight, and that's the disappointing thing. And listen, we just, we're not going to make excuses for anything. We're just going to come to work and get ready for New Orleans.
This offense has failed to score more than 24 points, but for once this season. They're getting too cute on offense. All of the things that worked a year ago are failing to work this year. They got cocky. Their defense didn't stop Ezekiel Elliott. He averaged 7.9 yards per carry last night behind an offensive line for a good chunk of the game with 3 backups starting. This is the vaunted Eagles defense. I'm here to tell you, that game shouldn't send Cowboys fans into optimism and starry-eyed view of the season this year. It should send Philadelphia Eagles fans into a massive self-reflection. What's wrong with the Eagles? Because you are on the verge of historical ineptitude, a historical fall. You are about to become the 4th team to fail to achieve a winning record after winning the Super Bowl. And as for the Cowboys, what about that other side of the equation? What did that win say about the Cowboys? I'll give you the good, and I'll give you the bad. Here's the good. Leighton Vander Esch, rookie linebacker, first-round draft pick, he's the truth. Congratulations, Cowboys. You hit a home run with your first-round draft pick. Number 2, Amari Cooper, he's the real deal. I came out here and I told you I love Amari Cooper, but I didn't want to spend a first. I got to tell you, I was wrong. Amari Cooper is worth a first-round draft pick. He has changed the field. Don't bring to me 6 catches for 50 yards, 60 yards. I don't care about the stats. Everyone can see he's changed the field. He demands double coverage. He's got amazing routes. Amari Cooper broke Ronald Darby's knee last night just off route running. Broke his knee. Just broke it. Ronald Darby didn't touch a single person. Not one. Just couldn't keep up with Amari Cooper's cuts. Broke his knee. Amari Cooper has changed the game for the Cowboys, and Ezekiel Elliott was amazing. Now, straight ahead, when we come back, I'll give you the bad for the Cowboys, and we'll talk about that division leader. Who wins the NFC East? The Washington Redskins sitting in the catbird seat, but can they hold on? Can they hold on when they give up 500 yards a game? That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up at 5 Eastern also, Hall of Famer Troy Aikman is going to join us here on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for The Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
I'm very interested how we handicap the NFC East now.
When Ezekiel Elliott gets rolling, when Dak Prescott has opportunities to get into the play-action game, this offense can move the ball.
Handoff. Elliott works his way through and walks the dog. Touchdown, Elliott.
105.3 The Fan.
What do the Eagles come away with from this?
We did take a step back tonight, and that's the disappointing thing.
And now we just really fueled Jerry Jones' fire of, all right, primetime game, you all saw what we can do. Now, please pay no more attention to the man behind the curtain.
In a division full of average teams, if you spot the Washington Redskins 2 games, can they win the NFC East? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. I told you the good last night from the Dallas Cowboys was rookie linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, Ezekiel Elliott averaging almost 8 yards a carry, and Amari Cooper, who looks every bit worth the first-round draft pick the Cowboys traded for him. Amari Cooper is a number 1 wide receiver. There's no doubt about it. If you want to look at box scores and think you figured it out, you might consider watching the games because this guy is absolutely impacting the field, and he was worth it. He was worth a first-round draft pick. Now, if last night's game said more about the Eagles than it did the Cowboys, and if what it said about the Eagles wasn't very kind, this division should be easy for the Washington Redskins to win. They're 6-3. They have a 2-game lead on both the Cowboys and the Eagles. But yesterday, they got a win that might have been more concerning than it was inspiring. The Redskins gave up 500 yards to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who apparently head coach Dirk Cutter has taken over play calling, but he couldn't get them into the end zone because the Buccaneers turned the ball over 4 times. Now, that is not going to be a recipe for the Redskins to win this year. Give up 500 yards and hope for one of the flukiest things in all of professional sports, turnovers. They're plus 11 on the season are the Redskins, and they're going to need that to continue their winning ways because the Redskins are not very good. That's the bottom line. Luckily for them, neither are the Eagles and neither are the Cowboys. And you know who knows this? Every one of those fan bases. And it's upset Redskins defensive back Josh Norman, who's noticed something about when their team is at home and when their team is away. Listen to Josh Norman.
I feel like we play better on the road. I'm not going to lie. Like, gosh, man. It just seems like the true fans and faithful ones, they really be with us on the road, and we feed off of that. When we go into the home stands, it just seems like, it's like an open bubble. I was like other team's turf or something. You hear more of them than you do us. And if something bad happens, they sulk. Sit back in their seat and they boo. Like, I don't know. It started to be this year when I started to see that.
This is Josh Norman with some harsh words for Redskins fans, but the truth is he's earned it, man. The Redskins team has earned this from their fans. It has been since 2012 that the Redskins have won 10 games in a year. It's been since 2005 that they've had a playoff win. It's been since the 1990s that the Redskins have won 11 games in a year. And Cerruti, who's running the show, Nuno's riding shotgun, and Bubba's on the board. You guys can double check this, but I think it was 1991, the last time the Redskins had 11 wins in a season. The team has earned this apathy from its fan base, this skepticism, this lack of emotion and passion. It always takes us back to what is the idea of a good fan base. Is a good fan base the one that's always there for you, thick and thin, win or loss, good times, bad times, always there? Or is a fan base one that lets you know how they feel? Lets you know. The Philadelphia Eagles fans last night booed that team off the field in the first half. And I don't even hate them for it. That's the dirty little secret about me and the Eagles fan base. I give you credit. I give you credit for being one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. And when you booed that team in the first half, you know what? They deserved it. And in Washington, the apathy of the fan base is well earned. I mean, how many 7-9 and 8-8 seasons can you offer up before fans start to yawn? And I know who that's coming from. That's coming from a Cowboy fan who's seen 20 years of mediocrity. But for all the mediocrity the Cowboys have given us, the Redskins have given you worse. I was on First Take today, and Max Kellerman tried to tell me one of the reasons the fan base is out is because of the offensive nature of the Mascot, the name, Redskins. Please. That's not what's turning Redskins fans off. Some, yes. Some, maybe. Football's about wins and losses. Fandom's about wins and losses. The reason those fans aren't there for you, Josh, is because you haven't given them enough W's. You got to give to get. It's got to be a reciprocal relationship. Every once in a while, you have to give a little hope that there's going to be something more than 8-8. And maybe, just maybe, this will be the year for the Redskins. Maybe with a 2-game lead and a 6-3 record, this will be the year that you win the division. That for the first time in over a decade, you get a playoff win. Doubt it. Maybe this is the year you earn some cheers back for the Redskins. I doubt that as well. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Did you guys see LeBron James this weekend? The Los Angeles Lakers played the Sacramento Kings up in Sacramento. And you're familiar at this point with the horrendous wildfires going on in both Northern and Southern California. Well, when they went up to Sacramento to play the Camp Fire, that's the name of the fire in Northern California, is getting pretty close to Sacramento, and the smoke was moving towards downtown Sacramento and had filtered into the stadium. You can see still shots, and you can see a haze around the stadium. And LeBron addressed this. He was asked, what it was like to play in those conditions, what it felt like, and he said it didn't feel very good. Listen to this.
You noticed the smoke?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, we noticed it as soon as when we landed yesterday. We haven't really got up and down like that to a point where you can tell if it affects you or not. But anytime smoke is around, obviously, it can affect all of us. Not only us as athletes, but everyone gets affected by pollution.
Now, you might expect, as somebody who's been a little bit of a LeBron James critic, that I might go, what? And in fact, Cerruti, I think wasn't that your response to this? Like, cry me a river, or come on, or skepticism? Yeah. Wasn't that your initial reaction, Cerruti?
You asked if we had the sound, and I said we do. I was like, you really believe that? And you're like, yeah, I do. I was like, really? I didn't think it was a thing. I really didn't.
When I was a freshman at Pepperdine, and then again when I was a senior, it seemed to be like Malibu, California was the epicenter of every natural disaster. My freshman year, we had the Northridge earthquake. It was the first earthquake I'd ever experienced. I was a kid from small town Texas, and I was on the top bunk of a dorm room, and I felt like I was in a rodeo riding that top bunk. Never had felt an earthquake like that. Then we had fires like these. Evacuate campus. Buildings burn. And I played, as people that listen to this show frequently know, I played water polo at Pepperdine. And we would try to practice as much as possible in those conditions, in that environment. We even had a game against USC at one time when it was kind of around. I'm talking about week here, week there on the front end or back end of those fires. And I'm going to tell you is this. When you smell it and the air is full of that smoke, no, man, you feel it. Your lungs feel it. It's like playing a game in a bar where smoking is still allowed. It's like taking down a pack and then trying to run up and down the court, or in my case, swim up and down the pool. It's serious. When LeBron says this, I 100% cut him slack. I 100% believe him. It really will make your lungs burn. It's something else. And that's the least of the troubles going on in California. That's the least of the issues where people are losing homes, having their lives threatened. All our thoughts and prayers go out to the people in California, because that's a real, real serious issue. One that I've had the unfortunate experience to go through. Not like people are going through it now. I don't want to equate anything I've experienced to the awful things going on, but I just have a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of empathy, because I've actually experienced it, the kind that goes with it. I have a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy, but I have a little bit of ability to project myself in that situation. All right, coming up, something looks wrong with the Patriots later in the season, for real this time. But it's really still hard to quit them, right? I'll ask Super Bowl champion Jeff Saturday what he thinks next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
My name is Lauren. I'm 33. I didn't want my identity to be the smoking mom. My first experience with Juul, I do remember being like, this is good. It's like a cigarette, but not. I don't miss smoking at all. Like, I can officially say it grosses me out.
Juul is the tobacco alternative that delivers nicotine satisfaction without cigarette ash or lingering odor. Make the switch at JUUL.com/sports.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
There's not really too much to say here this afternoon. Titans did a better job than we did in every part of the game.
Brady fires over the middle, pass incomplete, and Logan Ryan says, no, that will not happen today.
Happy to get above 500. We learned a lot from Mr. Kraft to Bill. We're together here with the Titans.
Yeah, it's a real sweet win, especially when you used to be there and they didn't want to bring you back. So
WGFX.
Hell yeah, it's personal. That's what happens when you go cheap. You get kicked.
Let's get right into it. With Super Bowl champion and ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. We got you, Jeff. What's up?
Hey, man, how you living, bro?
I'm living pretty good, pretty clean. Not as clean as the Philadelphia Eagles. 0 penalties last night, Jeff. That's something, huh? 0.
Oh, that's dirty, dude. You are dirty.
Well, it's just
little back slap. Huh? I see you, Will. I see how you go there, Buck. Feeling pretty good today. I feel you.
It's just a little statistical aberration. That's all. No big deal. They just play clean, good, clean football up there in Philadelphia. Listen. We do this every year, but we usually do it, I think, Jeff, in September. Oh, this the year there's something wrong with the Patriots. The wheels are finally falling off. They're finally getting old. Tom Brady's over the cliff. We don't normally, Jeff, do it in November. But yesterday, the Titans put a whooping on the Patriots. Is this different? Is this the kind where we should look back and go, maybe something is wrong with this Patriots team? Maybe something's different this time?
No. Listen, I still think it's way too early to get into all of that. The bottom line is Vrabel had a great plan against the Patriots. And I'm telling you, this is the exact plan. The defensive plan that the Titans used against Brady was what they used against Manning for all those years. You're going to jam the receivers early or at least try to get up and take them out of the quick pass game. You're going to rush linebackers. You're going to stand up defensive linemen. You're going to bring corners and add them in late. You're going to do all these things to make a quarterback who doesn't really ever want to move off the spot, and he's not going to have the type of performance. And then add on Corey Davis and Mariota strike early. They go up 17 in the first quarter. Kind of everything went really well for the Titans early, and they caught the Patriots sleeping, man, and jumped all over them. So good day for those guys, but to say, hey, that every team can do this to the Patriots, that every team will run the plan as effectively, I always find that hard to believe, man. You got to – I said this yesterday on the radio. You got to unseat them, and that doesn't mean beating them in the regular season, man. That means you got to go when it matters and to end somebody's season, and they get some time to prep for you. You got to beat them then. But hats off to Tennessee because they played a heck of a game.
Let's play a little game of real or fake, frauds or the real deal, because the results this weekend are going to make me start to question some opinions I had of some teams. Let's start with the Atlanta Falcons. I thought they were going to come around, Jeff. I thought that offense was coming together, and then they go to Cleveland, and they get absolutely beat by the Cleveland Browns. So are the Falcons a fraud?
Yeah, I think they're a fraud. But here's the thing. When you say fraud, I don't think they can contend for the NFC. I think their defense has been decimated, but this is probably still a team that has a shot to make the playoffs, win 9, maybe 10 games type deal, but contend for the NFC, no, they will not contend.
Man, if they're going to win 9 games, they're going to have to get on it. 5-2 would be what they'd have to do from here on out. 10 would be 6-1. They've shown nothing like the ability to do that.
No, yeah, I'm with you. So probably not, but even then, they can get hot. They always play their division tight. It's going to be one of those kind of things. But as far as contending, being able to win the big one, not counting on them.
Now, here's a team I also thought earlier this season had a little something, Jeff, and now they're looking like frauds as well, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought they had offensive weapons. They were starting to put it together. The defense is obviously in awful shape. They fired defensive coordinator Terrell Austin today. I don't know if that was the right guy to fire. At some point, Marvin Lewis is like Jason Garrett. You've been there, you've tried it, the experiment's run its course. But so are Cincy frauds, you think?
I think Cincy without A.J. Green is definitely a fraud. I mean, when a guy gets hurt that is what he is, offensively they still were, like you said, they were anemic yesterday, and their defense, wow. I mean, just – and again, they got injured on that side of football as well. There's no excuses, though. I mean, when the Saints go basically 10 for 10, they scored 9 of the 10 times, and the one was a victory. They didn't score. Those don't happen much in the NFL, man. I mean, right. Like that's just a rarity that's going to happen. And I don't care how good a team is offensively. That shouldn't happen in the NFL. So made a change at DC. I'm like you, though. Ultimately, that's got to go to the top dog at some point.
Right. Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. Now two teams that, I have been thinking they were frauds. I've been thinking, Jeff, they'll expose themselves sooner or later, but maybe they're real. So let me ask you about both of these. The Chicago Bears. Should I really start to believe in the Chicago Bears?
Believe in the Bears. Believe in the Bears because of their defense. And Nagy has done a really good job with Trubisky. A really good job. The last 3 weeks, I would say, his eyes. Now, again, you heard Nagy say yesterday it was the cleanest game Mitchell Trubisky has ever played, and I believe that. But understand the process which Nagy's taken him through. Trubisky where he's supposed to be going with the ball has improved this season tremendously, and it looks like it's going to continue to improve. They have a very good defense, and then when Khalil Mack is on the field, it can become a really, really good defense. And so anytime you have that in the weather up there, they're going to have a shot. So I think they're real. Now, are they going to win the NFC? No, they're not there yet. They're not going to win the NFC type.
They might win the North, right?
But they could win the North, absolutely. I completely believe that.
All right, one more. We're running out of time, but I have to ask you. I still don't, but you have to consider they're 6-3, believed in the Washington Redskins. Real deal or frauds on those guys?
I would have said 100% real deal if their line, those guys were only injured for a week or two. Their offensive line, when they lost 3 of them, obviously Trent Williams is going to come back, I think, in a couple weeks, maybe even before that. But no, when you lose, their offensive line was the strength of that group, of the entire football team. And when you lose that many, it may not show up, this week. It's going to eventually show up. Somebody's going to scheme you. They're going to get you. They understand that you're not going to be in the right place. And as good as Peterson has played, he needs that line to push and do what it was doing. So I think ultimately they're going to get shown because of the injuries.
Well, who's going to win that division? Well, they got a 2-game lead then, but who's going to win that division real quick, Jeff?
I still think they have a shot to win the division. They're just not going to win. They're just not going to win the NFC. Again, to me, all these teams, if you're saying fraud, meaning they're going to make the playoffs. I believe they're going to make the playoffs with the defensive line to playing the way they are. But there's just not going to be enough juice when you get to the playoffs because of the type of teams and quality opponent you play.
All right. Good stuff as always, man. Appreciate having you.
You the man, dude. Y'all be good.
All right. Super Bowl champion and ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, LeBron James has been awful at something. Objectively awful. And it gets worse as the game goes on. It gets even worse the more clutch the moment is. I'm not doing that thing, but it is a thing, okay? It's quantifiable. It's in the data. It's in the stats. LeBron James, really bad at this. Next on the Will Cain Show.
When tracking the domestic dust bunny, you commonly find them hiding under wardrobes next to lost socks. Don't move too suddenly or they'll scurry off. What's utterly fascinating about the dust bunny is that although they are not actually sentient creatures, when they hear that Geico not only saves people money, but also has a 97% customer satisfaction rating, it's obvious to them you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. Oh no, it's the dust bunny's only natural predator. Run along, dust bunnies, run along.
That's right. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. Coming to you live from the South Street Seaport in New York City. The fellas are back in Bristol. Cerruti's running the show. Nuno's riding shotgun, and Bubba is on the board. Nuno's got more grievances to file, more issues, more HR reports. We'll get to that in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show. But first, I'm not being a hater. And I'm not doing that thing that you all want to say I'm doing the thing, but I'm not doing the thing. This is a real thing here. LeBron James is objectively really bad at something. Now, last night, the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Atlanta Hawks 107-106. But LeBron, once again, was at the free throw line with the game in his grasp. He missed his free throws. Now, luckily, he got a putback to put the Lakers ahead. And on the other end, Tyson Chandler, the new acquisition for the Los Angeles Lakers, blocked a Trae Young shot and helped secure the win. But the operative word in everything I just said is again. LeBron James missed free throws in the clutch to win the game again. He's really bad at the free throw line. Really bad when it matters. Super bad in the clutch. And he knows it. Listen to this.
Oh.
Hold on. Bubba's trying to figure out what he's supposed to be doing here.
Well, there were 2 cuts 4 seconds ago, were there not?
This is not confusing, is it? It's right there. It says LeBron asked about free throw shooting.
Were there not 2 cuts up there?
There's 1 cut, Bubba.
I see that now. There were 2, so I was expecting cut 1 or cut 2, which you chose not to do for Doug Peterson.
This seems to be cut and dried for 3 out of 4 of us.
You ended up getting the points back on the putback dunk, but the missed free throws. What was behind that, you think?
I'm garbage. Yeah, I suck from the free throw line right now. I'll get my rhythm back, but I thank Kuz for giving me another opportunity, giving us another opportunity, and then he gave me another shot, so I tried to give him another shot.
There's LeBron James giving objective analysis on his free throw shooting. So let's quantify it. This from Ben Golliver at SI. He put this up on Twitter. So I don't want to barrage you with numbers. Here's the bottom line. LeBron is about a 75% free throw shooter. Okay? It stays hovering around 72, 76, 79, 74 first quarter through fourth quarter. Okay? So mid-70s pretty much all the way through the game, except in the clutch, when it matters. Now, clutch is defined as a game within 5 points, and here you go. In the last 5 minutes, clutch free throws, LeBron shoots 58%. Let's keep going. In the last minute, the last 60 seconds, clutch free throws, game within 5 points, it drops to 44%. In the last 30 seconds, game on the line, clutch game, 5 points or less, free throws. LeBron is shooting 38% from the free throw line. 38%. Clutch game, 30 seconds to go. LeBron cannot hit a free throw. What an embarrassment, to be quite honest. That's just not going to work. That's just not going to work for the greatest player on the planet. You can't be that guy because right now, I think it was Jalen Rose who pointed out this morning somewhere on ESPN, you got to have a hack of LeBron strategy at the end of the game. These are numbers that work in the defense's favor. Hack him, man. If he can't hit free throws, he's got to be put on the line. Amazon's Black Friday sale starts Friday with deals in every department, low prices, and free shipping on millions of items. Shop on Amazon. I will cut LeBron slack on smoke in the arena in Sacramento. I told Cerruti a little bit earlier in the show. I experienced that, man. It is rough. We played water polo practice and games during those natural disasters in Southern California, those fires, and it is something else. It'll burn your lungs. And you know what is something really sad? The disaster only gets compounded because this is the vicious cycle. They'll have these fires, these awful fires going on in California, both in northern and southern. And then a few months from now, maybe a year from now, there will be rains. And then they will have mudslides. I experienced all this as a small town kid from Texas, didn't have any idea. Earthquake, fire, mudslides. Because everything's burned up on the hillsides. There's no roots, no plants to hold it down. Water comes, and all these huge slabs of mud come down and block all the highways. Wash some houses off the hillside. It really is. It really is a sad thing. Jeff from Massachusetts. What's up, Jeff? What do you want to talk about?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm better than your cell phone.
LeBron, the Cowboys. I wanted to chime in from the early start.
Jeff, you're right now calling from the third circle of hell. I need you to perform some good deeds, climb back up into purgatory, and call me from there because I have nothing for you right now. I'll give you one more shot. Are you there, Jeff? Let's see if we can work through Satan's inner rings here. It sounds like you still have some work to do.
That was Nuno's boy, too.
So he wanted to know what your thoughts were on the Manchester Derby this weekend.
He also had a nice name.
Yeah, I saw that. Jeff Teixeira. Was he related to you, Nuno?
No, he was not. He's from the island.
Oh, why you want to ask me about the Manchester Derby? My team won. My team's good.
That's what he wanted to ask.
My team's amazing.
I think he was tired of the Cowboy talk. That's what it was.
Oh, well, that's what happens. You complained about the Cowboys. Bubba, what were the Cowboys ratings last night? I'm going to help you out. You had the bad spot where you couldn't play LeBron's clip there. Now you can get to share with me the Cowboys ratings.
Well, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'll tell you this: they were up.
Another fail.
They were up from last year. I'll tell you that much. That's all that matters. Year over year, ratings are up with the Cowboys. That much is confirmed.
Just like this show. Quit complaining about Cowboys talk because people love it, and they love.
You want to talk about you taking shots at me on emails?
Go ahead. I believe it was on text.
Not even email, on text.
Yeah,
calling me out.
Go ahead. You calling HR? What do you got?
I would never call
What
HR.
happened?
We would just handle this like men.
Go ahead. What are you talking about? Tell everybody.
You think that I unfairly pick on you? Do I want to say pick on you or act tougher towards you than I do with other people?
I can hear you. When you're producing Stephen A's show before this, I can sit in the side room and hear the conversations you have with Stephen A's producers. And all I said is, you're kind of a punk when it comes to other people. With me, you're all Mr. Tough Guy. But I hear you with tail between your legs over here with Winthrop, and I'm going, who's that guy? Who's that Nuno?
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to The Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Guys, you've heard me talk about Indochino and how made-to-measure suits fit better compared to generic off-the-rack suits. So if you haven't checked them out yet, now's the time, especially when they're available at such great prices. You know, I've always struggled with this when it comes to pants. You know, something that fits, but's long enough to go with boots and then wide enough in the ankle to fit over a boot. Get made just right. Well, Indochino is North America's leading made-to-measure menswear company. They make suit shirts for your exact measurements for an unparalleled fit and comfort. It's easy to get started. Visit a stylist at their own showroom and have them take your measurements personally or measure them at home yourself and shop online at Indochino.com. Guys love the option to personalize the details, including your lapel, lining, pockets, buttons, and writing your own monogram. So get your perfect suit and just watch as the compliments roll in. And by the way, November is Black Friday season, meaning 2018's lowest prices, up to 70% off everything. Make an entrance at your holiday party with Indochino. This week, our listeners can take advantage of Black Friday pricing by using code CAIN, C-A-I-N, at checkout. That's 70% off the regular price for a made-to-measure suit. Plus, shipping is free. That's Indochino.com, promo code CAIN, C-A-I-N, for up to 70% off. It's an incredible deal for a made-to-measure suit. Once you go custom, you don't go rack. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
It is the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, ESPN News, and on SiriusXM Channel 80. A little bit earlier today, I had the opportunity to sit down with Troy Aikman on behalf of Tide. The Hall of Famer, Dallas Cowboy legend, three-time Super Bowl champion, had some things to say about his career and the state of the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, I think everyone can admit, and I know you've talked about it in the past week, this season hasn't gone exactly the way most had hoped. So if you were diagnosing the Cowboys, what's the one thing that you would say has to change for this organization?
Oh, I don't know. I think that every organization has its unique challenges and things that, you know, that have to happen in order to give yourself an opportunity to go out and win. I just, you know, my comments last week were based on an interview that I was doing, and I was asked if I thought Jason Garrett should be fired or would he be fired if they failed to make the playoffs. And And my response was that I certainly understand what this business is about, and if you don't win, then no one gets to keep their job for very long. But we've seen coaches come through the Cowboys organization, and the results, by and large, have been the same. I mean, this is an organization that's won 2 playoff games in the last 20-plus years or whatever it's been, and so I think you have to take an honest assessment of how things are being done, and it's not a matter of just simply saying, okay, let's just replace the coach. That'll solve everything. Well, it's been shown that doesn't necessarily solve everything. So I think that's true of the Cowboys. I think that's true of every organization, that if you're going through long stretches to where you're not achieving your goals and you're mediocre at best, then I think there needs to be changes, or there needs to at least be an honest evaluation as to why that is occurring. And there are those organizations that we look at around the league that have had a hard time winning on a consistent basis, and you have to ask yourself why.
Troy Aikman here on the Will Cain Show. So I hear you, Troy. If you swap out certain variables over time, in this case coaching, but the results remain the same, it suggests the problem lies somewhere else. And I hear you say there needs to be changes. So if it's not coaches, what changes need to be made? Well, look, I mean, Jerry Jones has been the owner of the Cowboys since 1989. He's been the general manager of the Cowboys, I guess, since 1989, although while Jimmy Johnson was there, Jimmy seemingly had control of the roster and made a lot of the personnel decisions that occurred. And then from that moment on, when Barry Switzer came in, then it was Jerry who was making the selections in the draft and running the personnel department, if you will. So, like I said, I'm not in the building. I made that clear last week. I've talked to people who have been in, and there's things that have to be overcome when you play for the Cowboys. It's a high-profile organization. It's a high-profile owner. It's not always just strictly about football, and with that comes some challenges. And it's just a matter of if winning is the most important thing for any organization, and yet it's not being achieved on a regular basis, then that has to be evaluated. Whatever. I mean, you can't just say simply we fire coaches and then bring in new coaches, and that has been proven to not yield much better results. Then look at what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then change some of that and make it better. I heard Jerry, in response to some of the things you say last week, say people will take their shots. How's your relationship with Jerry right now? It's fine. Haven't seen him here recently. I've had some of their games, but the relationship is fine. Obviously I've known Jerry going back to when I was 22 years old. I have a working understanding of being in the building and being in the organization. I was with the team when we were the worst team in football. I was with the team when we built it into a 3-time world champion in 4 years, and I was with the team when we ran it into the ground at 5-11. So I've run the gamut, and I've seen the inner workings and what it looked like then, and I understand why maybe we had some of the struggles we had. Troy Aikman with us here on the Will Cain Show on behalf of Tide. And Troy, I'll ask you about Tide and some of the ads you guys have been doing here in just a moment. But let's shift over to Dak Prescott, because I think the two things people talk about these days when it comes to the Cowboys and questions about them is, one, the head coach, and two, the quarterback. What do you think, if everything worked perfectly for Dak, right system, right coaches, right scenario around him, right talent around him, what do you think the ceiling is for Dak Prescott? Well, I think it's hard to determine, really. I think those are hard projections to make for anybody, because until you do it, I think there's always people who question whether or not you're capable of doing it, regardless of who it is. And we heard those same things about Peyton Manning early in his career when he lost 3 straight years in the postseason, and could he win a playoff game? And we know what he was able to do, and the number of wins and records and everything else. So I think it's hard. I think you look at a player, you evaluate him as best you can, you try to get him in a scheme that fits his talents, and then get him a good support group and good players around him, and good coaching and all that. And I really like Dak Prescott. I know he came into the league, was not expected to play as early as he did. He was regarded as a bit of a project coming into the league, a 4th-round pick that had really never even taken snaps underneath center. So the play-action game was new to him. He obviously had a great rookie year when he stepped in and played in all those games. And
So I like what he is about. He represents all that's good, and he's a quarterback who, as an owner and as a head coach, you go to bed each night knowing you've got the right guy who it's important to, and he's going to do all he can to improve himself and make the team better. And I think that he's gone through some tough times. I think that's to be expected. I think his rookie year was so magical that the league is not as easy as maybe he made it look at times. And last year was probably a little bit more of a realistic view, but I think to try to compare last year and say, well, it wasn't as good as his rookie year, well, that's because that rookie season was so good. And this year he has struggled a little bit. I think he's pressed a little bit at times. He's acknowledged that. And then yesterday he went out last night and he had a heck of a game. And so he has shown what he's capable of doing. And he's still a young player, relatively speaking, in this league. And I think he's only going to continue to get better. And I think they'll slowly begin to take more and more advantage of some of his skills and some of the things that he does best. And that is, his ability to run the football and the play action game and things of that nature. He's only going to continue to improve, and I really like him. So I'm pulling for him all the way, and I think he's got a bright future.
Listening to you there, it sounds like some of the things Jerry actually said in the past week as well. He's a young quarterback, and Jerry committed to giving Dak Prescott an extension, committed at least verbally on the radio to giving Dak Prescott an extension beyond his rookie deal. So would you agree with Jerry then that sounds like the right decision for the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I think those are hard decisions to make because of the amount of dollars that you're committing for anybody. It's not just Dak's situation, but when you have a young quarterback and then all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where, okay, well, where do we go from here? Like I said, I think the great thing when you're investing that kind of money in any player, you want to know that the game's important to them and that they're going to do all that they can to improve and help the football team, and he certainly fits that category. So I would have no reservations to paying Dak, and I think you also have to then look at it and say, okay, well, if it's not Dak Prescott as your quarterback, then who is it? And I think Jerry has been, really fortunate here for quite some time, going back to being able to have a franchise quarterback in Tony Romo who was undrafted, and then have a franchise quarterback in Dak Prescott who was taken in the fourth round. So with minimal investment, at least early on in their careers, he's been able to find guys who have been able to come in and play at a high level and lead this football team. So I think that's been a good thing. And like I said, I think the best years are still way ahead of Dak, and I think he's going to be a really good player in this league for a long time. I
got one more for you, Troy, before I ask you about Tide. Again, Troy Aikman here on the Will Cain Show on behalf of Tide. I heard you in the past week suggest that you've looked or considered a career beyond broadcasting. Troy, there's a lot of people, at least in the Dallas area, talking about, would you be somebody that could come in and perhaps take some of those GM duties with the Cowboys organization?
Well, I don't think that would ever happen in Dallas. I think, Jerry's made it very clear that he's going to be the guy. And so, the timing, I think, is the most important part of all this. And I had my kids right after I retired from the game and could have gotten into coaching, could have gotten into, a front office at that time, but I knew the amount of hours that would be required, and I didn't think it'd be fair. I thought it'd be pretty selfish on my part, not having to do it and being pulled away from the family at that time. And my girls now are sophomores and juniors in high school, so they'll be moving on to college here soon, and I love my job. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's been great working for Fox, and I thoroughly enjoyed being involved in the game and having my weeks to myself and being able to spend that with the family. But I've said many times, I do think there's another frontier for me, and maybe that's with some club in the front office. Maybe it's not even sports related. I'm not sure, but I don't think that when I'm done really fully committing myself in my career, I don't know that broadcasting is going to be the end of the line for me. So we'll see what doors may or may not open. But as far as it being in Dallas, I know there has been some suggestions I've heard from people as well, but I don't anticipate that. I don't anticipate anybody coming and calling for me here in Dallas.
All right, we've seen the ads during the broadcast you're doing with Tide. Tell me a little bit about those Tide ads.
Well, the Tide ads, I partnered with them this past year. Joe Buck and I did, and the rest of our crew. It's been a lot of fun. I think the campaign has been, really unique. It's put viewers right in the action with our Thursday night football crew, and we've had some really good guys who have been a part of that. We've had Christian McCaffrey involved in it. Malcolm Jenkins, he was in it as well, and so I think we've kind of made people take notice, I guess, of the ads, of whether or not it's an in-game commercial or is it actually a live shot from within the booth. And people are catching on, of course, but it's been well done. I think Tide's been really creative. It started back in Super Bowl 52 when they first did it, and it'll continue again through this year's Super Bowl. And it's a great company, a great product, and I've been thrilled to work with them.
All right, that's Hall of Famer Troy Aikman, whose time I appreciate here on the Will Cain Show. Coming up, let's react to some of the things he said about whether or not Troy would take a job in Dallas. And I'm not selling on the Patriots, even though it's a big loss. I'm not selling on the Patriots, not yet. And that's got one person yelling hypocrite at me. Next, in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. We just got done talking to Hall of Famer, three-time Super Bowl champion, lead analyst for Fox, Troy Aikman here on the Will Cain Show. I have three quick observations from that interview. Three things that I found fascinating that Troy said or almost said to us about the state of the Dallas Cowboys. And guys, back in the studio, Cerruti's running the show, Nuno's riding shotgun, and Bubba's on the board. Tell me if you picked up the same things. First of all, when I pressed him on what's wrong, he's been pretty candid about the dysfunction lies higher than the coaching Ferris wheel of the Dallas Cowboys. When I pressed him on what and where, he pretty much did everything short of saying Jerry Jones is GM. I mean, if you go north of coaches, by the way, there's not many places to go. If you say there's dysfunction and it's above the coaching level, there's not many places to go in Dallas. And that's the point. It's the Jones family. It's either Steven or Jerry Jones. And I think what is clear to me, and Bubba, Nuno, Cerruti, you tell me if you came away with the same thing, is he was indicting Jerry Jones as GM.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but he obviously can't say that directly to us. I thought the more telling thing was later in the interview. I think it was the last question before the Todd question. When you're asking about him being a potential front office guy, and he says, yeah, he'd be open to doing it, or there are potential opportunities in the future, but not in Dallas.
Absolutely. I came in with three things. One, that he basically considers personnel decisions and GMing of the Dallas Cowboys the level of dysfunction. One. Two, there has been conversation. We've had the conversation on this show. There's been conversation in Dallas about whether or not Troy Aikman is a guy who could come in, be a president, a GM, be somebody who helps bring some function to the dysfunction in Dallas. And he was certain with us. He was clear. Not in Dallas. He said it in two ways, I think. One, Jerry's made it clear that he doesn't want anything like that. And second, he can envision something like that at other organizations, but not in Dallas. His own vision of his future outside of broadcasting. I think that was the second most amazing thing or eye-opening thing. And the third was actually an opinion he shared with Jerry Jones. When I asked him if he would be comfortable extending Dak Prescott, he said yes. That's the kind of guy, and I wrote it down here, I would have no reservation about paying Dak Prescott. So on that note, Troy Aikman and Jerry Jones seem to agree. Those are the big three takeaways for me. You guys have anything else that you thought there really stood out?
Honestly, I can't believe you held it together, because I know it was like a fanboy moment for you. I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, is Will going to embarrass me with this client? Like, I'm not sure how. It's the first time, and props to you. You didn't embarrass yourself.
Well, what did you think I would do?
I don't know. I thought you were going to ask him some weird question, or I mean, I think in the beginning you brought up how much of a fan you were when you were a kid, but come on.
Come on, what?
I thought it would be worse.
Okay. Well.
So cheerio to you.
Thank you. All right, the Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. I did that read, so I'm not going to do it twice. Instead, I'm going to play for you this sound from Bill Belichick, head coach of the New England Patriots. They got beat by the Titans, and I mean beat. So it's got a lot of people going, well, we're used to having these questions, these beatdowns in September with the Patriots, but what about November? These are kind of a who are you type of loss. Here's what Bill Belichick had to say.
There's not really too much to say here this afternoon. They just, Titans did a better job than we did in every part of the game, every phase of the game. So not a good day for us. And we've got a lot of work to do here, a lot of football left to go. We just obviously didn't do much of anything well today. So
no, they didn't. But, I mean, please. You really going to be the first one out of the Patriots party? I know I picked the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm not selling on the Patriots like, oh, this Patriots team, it's not going to be the one. It's different. You know, losing like this in November, please. Chiefs, no, come on. Be the last guy out of the Patriots party, not the first. And that's got Nuno yelling hypocrite again, right?
Well, weren't you the first to try to jump off the LeBron Cavs bandwagon last year? You talked about Toronto. Then there was, I think, a point, Boston, the Bucks. It was so. Why would you give Tom Brady the benefit of the doubt in a conference that's probably, I think, Chargers, Chiefs?
Okay. I get your point. Are you serious with this? I mean, is this one you want to really do? You want to do this? Because I'm
just asking you a question.
I'm going to de-pants you and laugh. I'm going to make you look silly on this one.
That's an HR violation.
Hey,
he's just asking the question.
Might have to snitch on you here.
All right, I'll tell you what. I will de-pants Nuno right when we come back on this ridiculous attempt at getting me in hypocrisy by comparing the New England Patriots to the Cleveland Cavaliers, by attempting to compare anybody to the greatest, Tommy Brady. That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Oh, boy.
If you're a smoker, you know switching isn't easy. You've tried vapes and e-cigs. They just didn't deliver the satisfaction you expected. But Juul is different. It's not an e-cigarette. It's a vapor product that actually satisfies. Plus, Juul is simple to use, and there's no cigarette ash and no lingering odor. As a smoker, you expect a certain nicotine experience, right? Juul delivers. Give Juul a try. Check out JUUL.com/sports. Switch and be satisfied. Yes, you can do both. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. A little bit earlier I said, here's two takeaways from the Jimmy Butler trade from Minnesota to Philadelphia. One, the East is now more interesting than the West. More interesting teams, more interesting characters, more interesting games to keep up with this season. And two, I love when teams do what the Philadelphia 76ers have done. And there seems to be a new trend, a new rash of GMs or teams who are willing to say, hey, our window's now, let's go. Let's do whatever it takes. Let's go all in. Let's try to capitalize on our window. From the Houston Rockets to the Philadelphia 76ers to the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors to the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams, there are teams that are self-aware enough to know go time is now, do what it takes to secure a championship. But I have a third take on this Jimmy Butler trade, and it essentially is, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'll get to that in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show. But I've said this. Yeah, that's an ugly loss to the New England Patriots, to the Tennessee Titans. It's one we normally don't see from the Patriots in November, and it has people going, could this year be different? I heard Stephen A. Smith say, this Patriots team, they're not going back to the Super Bowl. Now, they weren't my preseason prediction. My prediction was the Los Angeles Chargers. But I want to be the last person out of the Patriots party. I don't want to be selling on Tom Brady or the New England Patriots until you absolutely have to. And that's got our boys back in the studio. It's Rudy running the show, Nuno riding shotgun, and Bub on the board. And one in particular, Nuno yelling hypocrisy again. And why Nuno? Because I was ready to doubt the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, you kept selling on LeBron in that week East last year.
Yeah, and so are you under the impression, or are you caught here with the catnip that is hypocrisy to you? Are you under the impression that the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New England Patriots are in any way the same?
No, I just want you to admit that you have these biases that it doesn't matter what happens, you'll still rock with the person that you're with. So you're a Brady guy, like you love that guy, so you're always going to rock with him. You hate LeBron, and you're going to always try to disparage him as much as possible. And listen, I have no issue with that.
Oh, you don't? Yeah, that's clear. You know that clip we played from Mike Gundy a little bit earlier? I'm 100% sure he was talking to you. Like, why is everything with you about these superficial identity issues? Like, why does it have to be like, I rock with Brady, but I hate LeBron? Like, that's the depth of my analysis. That's rather the depth of your analysis. So you project that onto everybody else. Let me explain to you my bias, okay? Set aside that they play two different sports. It's the NBA and the NFL, and there's no comparison between a team in the East of the NBA and the AFC of the NFL. Let's just focus on this. Which organization would have earned you more trust? Which organization would have demanded that you be the last one out of their party? Let me see here. The one that went to 8 Super Bowls, won 5, or the organization that won 1? Which action, not identity, not name, not who you rock with, which action earns you the most trust? Winning 5 championships or 1?
Oh, boy. But we are talking about a single player, right? So
I was talking about the Patriots.
All right. But we're talking about Brady now.
Because you brought him up.
He is the Patriots. Is Brady
so now
not the
you
Patriots?
Changed it. You changed it to Brady versus LeBron. I said I'm not selling on the Patriots. I'll be the last one out of the Patriots party. You're having a Brady and LeBron debate.
Wait a minute. When you're talking about the Patriots, you're talking about Brady, Belichick.
Uh-huh.
That's it. There's no one else on that roster you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Right.
Okay then.
Okay. So what's your point?
Why do you sell? You constantly sold on LeBron.
Uh-huh.
Why are you all in on Tom Brady still?
Okay, let's try if we can do this mathematically. Is 5 bigger than 1?
You got nothing here, right? So that's just keep changing the
I've
argument.
got nothing. So 5 Super Bowls doesn't earn you a trust, in your estimation, any more than 1. Instead, it's about who you rock with. I got you. Okay. You can tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Celebrate fall birthdays and anniversaries with multicolored roses from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, 1-800-Flowers is offering a bouquet of 24 multicolored roses for $24. To order 24 multicolored roses for $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. If you thought this was going to get any better, or if you thought the arguments might only go up from Nuno, I give you Dave from Milwaukee. Go, Dave.
What's going on, Will?
Go on ahead, Dave.
I love your show. Listen to you all the time. I definitely agree with the firing of Marvin Lewis, but where are you from originally?
Sherman, Texas.
Sherman, Texas. So that allows you to be a Dallas fan?
First of all, I don't know what allows means. I am from an hour outside of Dallas. Do you know where Sherman is, Dave?
Yeah.
You do?
All I know
Dave,
is I drive around the country.
Where is it? Where is it? Where's Sherman?
It's an hour north.
Hey, nice.
I feel like he was hoping for a different answer than Sherman, Texas.
Oh, he seems to have an argument prepared for Sherman, Texas. How far does the Dallas Cowboys fan zone extend, Dave? I grew up 60 miles from Dallas. Would it be like 55, or where does it cut off?
No, you're good, I guess. All I know is I drive around the country, I see Pittsburgh Steelers fans everywhere, and they couldn't find Pittsburgh on a map if you held a gun to their head. But
what's that have to do with me being a Dallas Cowboy fan? Are you related to Nuno?
No, because it's easy. It's so easy to be a Dallas fan. It's so easy to be a Yankees fan. What do? You take off your Yankees shirt and then put on a Dallas jersey in October?
Well, a couple things. I'm a Mavericks, Rangers, Longhorns, Cowboys fan because that's the way I was born and that's the way I was raised. Second, if you think it's easy, thank you for complimenting me. Thank you for coming on the show and speaking up the Dallas Cowboys because others tell me that it's been 25 years of mediocrity. Others tell me that the Cowboys haven't done anything for 2 decades. So why don't you tell them about how easy it is to be a Cowboys fan?
I'll tell you how hard it is to be a Bengals fan. What's the date on the last time they won a playoff game? Smart ass.
There's no doubt that you have a subpar organization that's one less than the Dallas Cowboys? Were we having a competition about who's had a rougher time? Was that what was going on? By the way, Dave, you gotta. Okay, Dave, you can come at me, but you do have to mind the language. Go ahead.
So I apologize for that, sir. No, it's just real fans that root for the Yankees and Cowboys and Steelers and, hundreds of Super Bowls, championships, everything else. It just, it's the same reason people ask me why I'm not an Ohio State fan. Well, I didn't go to school there. Just because I'm born and raised in Ohio, it doesn't make me an Ohio State fan.
Okay.
Good.
But there are people that were actually born around Dallas and are actually fans. You happen to have just called into one and tried to pretend like you were arguing with a guy from Duluth.
Well, can you not admit that there's like hundreds of Duluth people that are Cowboys fans?
And I welcome them into America's team.
But did you not know he was from Texas? That's my question.
No, I knew he was from Texas. I just figured he was closer to a Houston fan than a Dallas fan.
I think you are related to Nuno.
No, from where he lived, not from where he talks. Of course, he talks to Cowboys every 2 seconds he gets. I understand that.
I'm a Mavericks fan. Rangers fan. That's not easy.
Yeah, how much time do you talk about the Mavericks or the Rangers?
It's football season, Dave. It's football season.
I'm just going to fade this down here.
Yeah, I'm going to let him go. All right.
He tried.
I'm just trying. Between.
They did call you a smart A.
He did.
Was great.
Which was a good drop. I want you to get that for the future, would you?
Unlikely.
Bubba and Srudy, would you vote on this? Who gave a more compelling argument, Dave or Nuno, in that segment?
Oh, easy, Nuno.
Really?
Yeah. Dave was a 0.
Dave at least had emotion. Nuno's whole thing about LeBron and Brady and who you rock with was horrendous.
He went at it wrong, but I think you were going semantics because I'm actually on Nuno's side of this. I think you are being a hypocrite.
Oh, Srudy, you're ridiculous. You guys are LeBron disciples, and you have turned this into thinking LeBron and the Cavs were the equivalent of the Patriots and Brady. And that's offensive to anybody, not just the Patriots fans or casual observers, but anybody who has basic observational and logic skills down. That's who you've offended. You've offended everyone outside of the Nunos. Coming up, why Jimmy Butler to the Sixers is a risk that I like, but boy, is it a risk. Next in the Will Cain Show.
I can't believe it. That Philip brought his little brother on our mission into orbit.
How long until we get there? How long until we get there? How long until we get there?
No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance with Geico.
What's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do?
No, don't touch that. Believe it, Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
D. Wilson Sixers agreed to trade Jimmy Butler to Philly.
What the heck happened to those 4 first-round draft picks that somebody was offering the Timberwolves for Jimmy Butler? He certainly went a lot less than that.
Tom Thibodeau made the mistake. He sold his owner on the idea that this team could win while waiting out this trade. Not only did they not win, it became an embarrassment, a fiasco for the organization. He also sold his owner on the idea that the offers would get better. The offers got worse.
They got a doll in the city of brotherly love.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. Srudy just proclaimed Dave from Milwaukee the worst call yet. Text chain going on behind the scenes. Was that an example, Srudy, of something you don't want me to share on air?
No, that's okay. I don't know, Dave. That was a terrible call.
Liam liked it. Our boss Liam said he liked Dave calling me a smartass. So
easy.
Dave said it, not me. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your ESPN app. So Jimmy Butler, traded by the Minnesota Timberwolves to the Philadelphia 76ers, along with Justin Patton. Going back the other way, going to Minnesota, is Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and a second-round pick. Now, while I like this in terms of risk-reward, I like teams going all in on their window, one, and I like that the East is now more interesting than the West, two. What I don't feel very good about is the old maxim that President George W. Bush butchered, but I'm not going to, which is this. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Jimmy Butler's been here before. Jimmy Butler's been on a team with young stars with bright, sunny futures. In fact, he's been there twice. In Minnesota, he had 2 max-level players, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. Now, there are no Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, but it did not go well, just like it did not go well in Chicago. Jimmy Butler has burned 2 teams, 2 locker rooms. No matter what kind of happy words they say today in Minnesota or what they may say in Chicago, we know because A, they got divorced, and B, we heard all of the yelling and screaming on the way out that it didn't go well. So if you're a 76ers fan, yay, you got you a stud in. You got you a third wheel to go with Simmons and Embiid. You got you, at least in theory and on paper, the ability to compete with the Celtics and the Raptors and the Bucks to win the East. But do you trust Jimmy Butler? Do you feel good about him being the third wheel, the third superstar? It is also a little bit of a letdown. When I started to think about the process, and the process ended some time ago, the process was designed, no matter how many arguments I've had with our friend P.I. who calls in, the process got the Sixers into contention. That was tank and build through the draft. Then they moved on to the next phase, which was find that next superstar to get them actually into contention, meaning in the NBA Finals, winning the East, challenging for the NBA championship. That required another component, one they weren't going to find through the draft. And the conversation was about Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, guys like that, Paul George. And all of those guys fit in a way that Jimmy Butler doesn't necessarily fit the same way. Not quite as prolific, proficient, efficient from 3. Can play defense, that's for sure. Can handle the ball and help Ben Simmons out there some. But more than any of that, it's Jimmy Butler in the locker room. It's Jimmy Butler, the guy. If you're a Sixers fan, you've got to at least be a little nervous about where that could go. Now, various ESPN personalities, Rudy, do we have this? Bubba, do we have this sound? Have talked about Jimmy Butler's going to have to go into Philadelphia and just do something he hasn't done his last 2 stops, which is just play basketball. So, Rudy, I believe we had somebody talking about that a little bit earlier. Do you have that available?
I think this is an unbelievable situation, not only for him, but for the Sixers. I can't think of a better thing that could have happened to the Sixers.
And I think he needs to take a page out of LeBron James when he went to Miami. Mm-hmm. He was introduced first. He didn't care about being introduced last. He let his play make him the star of the team, not what he said or how he felt or ego. If Jimmy just goes in there and plays, Philly will love him. But Philly also will turn on him if he turns in the wrong direction and says the wrong things, because it's Joel Embiid's team.
There you go, talking about Jimmy just needs to play. By the way, this is Joel Embiid's team. Is that something you expect Jimmy Butler to just be able to mesh with? We've already heard, and guys back home, Cerruti's on running the show, Nuno's riding shotgun, Bubba's on the board. There's already a little bit of scuttlebutt, am I wrong? That Embiid and Simmons isn't the smoothest of relationships, and now you inject Jimmy Butler into that. Is that right, Cerruti?
Yeah, I would be a little bit nervous, especially because I don't want to question whether or not he's going to play. Like, 'cause you don't know what his future's like. He wants to get paid, and obviously Philly's going to want to keep him, but he may want to go somewhere else. So how hard is he going to play for the Sixers?
Well, they said they're going to extend him, right? He's going to get his money.
Of course they want to.
And that seems to be the most important thing to Butler at this point, getting this money, and the Sixers say they're going to do that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, he comes in, it doesn't go well, he doesn't like it. He can get more money from Philadelphia than anywhere else. He can get a 5th year, right, and he can get more money. So they have that ability. If money's the most important thing to Jimmy Butler, then Philadelphia will be the place. But I'm just, man, you have a track record. You have 2 organizations, 2 instances where this hasn't gone well. I'm just not sure Jimmy Butler was going to be the guy, is the guy, to add to those 2 young guys. Again, go for it. That's great. Was this the guy to go for it with? Go in on your window. Realize it's now. Was this the guy to go all in with? Adrian Wojnarowski has a great piece up on ESPN.com about the Jimmy Butler experiment in Minnesota, a team that gambled it all on Butler and how that went south. And the guy behind Butler the entire time championing him, Tom Thibodeau. See, Tom Thibodeau is a perfect example of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Thibodeau saw, he knew what went wrong in Chicago. He knew who Jimmy Butler was, and he brought him to Minnesota. And how did that pay off for Thibodeau? It didn't. He'll probably lose his job over the whole deal because the Wolves sacrificed assets and draft picks and young players to get Butler in the door, and now they've got Covington and Saric to add to Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. It may not be Thibodeau that guides those guys into the future.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.